All right, I'm so glad you're here. So, just a quick intro. We created this podcast because for women and marginalized communities, work is hard, it's different. So, we'll be bringing in a guest to talk about the ways that you can play the game. And we're going to share strategies on how to make it all work. That means that we're going to state an issue. We're going to talk about a quick fix. And then, of course, we're going to talk about a long-term solution.
Yeah, for women and for women in marginalized communities, work is different. And especially at this point in the pandemic and in our lives, the decision has to be, how much of myself do I want to bring to this job, to this workplace, right? So I have all these parts of me. How many of them am I willing to share? Are they beneficial to me to share those parts? What are the parts that I need to feel authentic, right? Like there's this whole arithmetic that goes on for women because at every level, you've got to play the game differently, right? And so there's all these variables and you have to decide what are the pieces of me that I'm willing to share or that help me to share, and what are the pieces I don't want people to know about.
So true. So I am Tramelle, and this is one of my best friends, Bonnie. We're so excited to start this endeavor with you. Bonnie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So I am Bonnie Scott. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Texas. General, just like good troublemaker, and really excited to be here with you and be making this podcast because for 10 years you've been my friend, and I feel like we've talked about podcasts that whole time. So
yes,
I'm excited to be creating one with you finally.
So I can't let you go quickly through that intro without talking about the things that you're doing out in this world, specifically the books and zines that you have authored. So talk a little bit about that. I'm excited about this last book that you just wrote. Talk to me about that.
Thank you. I will. Yeah. So the last book, I love that you describe it that way, as if it's not my only book. So it's called Woke Parenting, and the idea is to raise kids who are intersectional, feminist, kind, not crummy people.
Yeah.
And all of the work that goes into that for us as parents and what that looks like. And I'm really proud of it. I wrote it with my friend, Dr. Faith Harper, and mostly I'm just writing her coattails into being an author, but it was really great to write it. It took me a long time. It came out as a series of zines to begin with, and so you can sort of pick one of those up and get a little chunk, or you can dive into the whole book. You find those at Microcosm Publishing, microcosm.com.
Yes. And I love it. I think that you were so intentional about the things that you offered, and the fact that there are a lot of people out here authoring parenting books who are not parents. I appreciate the fact that you actually are a parent. I've met your daughter. She's amazing. I think that it's a parent that you're doing the actual work that you're talking about doing. That's important. It's not the fact that you're just out here authoring just for no rhyme or reason, but all of the things that you're talking about, your life actually embodies them. And that's what I love about it. So great job. So
it's been cool it's been really cool to be able to include my own experiences, hear Faith's experiences, because her kids are grown, right?
Yeah.
And sort of incorporating friends and clients and all of those stories and the things that I hear. Just hoping, that the baby generation is coming up. They're going to be cool.
I'm always telling mothers, like, we have a lot of moms who prior to the pandemic stayed home, and people would look down on that role as if there was something lesser about you being a stay-at-home mom or about being with kids 100% and supporting them 100%. But the thing about that is I attach to that role the utmost importance because you're raising our future. Yeah. If the people who are home with our kids, churn out crappy kids, we have a crappy future. So it's really important that we uplift those women who are taking that on. That's a huge task. Not everybody can do that. I'm going to be honest with you. I love my daughter, but I don't think that, when the pandemic did happen and she came home and we started to do the school from home, I was like, well, thank God for your teachers, because I don't think I could teach you just 100%.
Yeah.
It could not be just me. I don't
Yeah.
see it. So that parenting assistance that we get from your zines and the books is huge.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, friend.
Hey, podcast listener, this is Bonnie jumping in on this little break in the action to talk to you about advertising opportunities for this season of the podcast. So, my business, Mindful Kindness Counseling, is really proud to support this podcast and these conversations, both with my time, but also financially. And Tramelle and I want you to know that we are open to your advertising needs as well. So if you're interested in funding a spot on the podcast, please feel free to contact us at workandwellnesspodcast@gmail.com. Bye.
So my name is Tramelle D. Jones, and I am a strategic career coach. I love strategy when it comes to career planning. I am a geek at this stuff. I started my very first resume writing class 20 years ago when I was an 18-year-old kid. I was voluntold to do so. And ever since then, a bug hit me. So I have just loved working with people to help them strategize and monetize their skill sets. So I am focusing this year on doing more forward-facing things like this podcast, being out in the world, and doing more speaking engagements. So that's where you will see me thrive this year. And moving forward, you're going to see my face more. You're going to hear my voice more. I have been behind the scenes working with clients to make sure that they are, marketing themselves their very best and being paid what they're worth. And now I'm going to continue to do that. But in addition, I really want to go to the masses and share with everybody so that everybody is doing that for themselves.
Oh my gosh, yes.
A little bit about me. So should we talk about how we met?
Yeah, let's talk about that. I think the world wants to know because we're very interesting, fun people.
Aren't we? So
We are.
I think I was working at BCFS when you were an intern. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. That would have been 2012. So literally you have been putting up with me for 10 years.
Oh my God. I don't know how the heck time flies so fast.
So fast.
So I remember that you came in for the internship, but seriously, Bonnie, you weren't nobody's intern. You came in and whipped us into shape. Okay. But you were interning for your LPC, correct?
Yeah. For my degree, for my master's degree.
Wow. So we were working with foster youth in a center that basically was a one-stop shop for foster youth to get benefits after they either were still in the system or after they aged out. I was the career or employment specialist for all of our city and surrounding counties. And I think that when I came into that position, the person who did my job before, maybe they did not like it. Like it because none of the kids wanted to come. They were just like, I don't look for no job, miss. And then I get excited about this stuff. I make it fun. I have a good time with it. And after a little while, I think kids they caught that, right? It was infectious.
Right.
And so I started having a really great time getting a lot of kids into my office, finally getting some good resumes written with them. And then they would come over to you for program management. So we had the best team I think I've ever worked with in my entire life, Bonnie.
Oh, yes. They were so good. It was such a good group.
Like we still keep up with everybody, but like in every work situation where people are like, well, at this job, I'm like, let me tell you about the best team I ever worked with though. Yeah. Right. And it's always you and the other people who we work with during that time. And I feel like we grew so much. I feel like we had a lot of creative control. We were able to do so much work, not just on the like, yeah, sure, we put up numbers because we did. We were very successful team. We did a lot of good things and we put up numbers, but we had such a rapport with our clients.
Well, and I felt so supported by everyone else, right? Like it was that I don't remember drama. Like I don't remember fighting with anybody else. It was like we were all just excited to be there and be together. And if one of us was having a rough time, everybody was there to sort of like help pick up the slack or make sure that everybody was getting what they needed. And I don't think
Yes.
I could have done that job without that team.
So since then, I have made it my goal to teach people how to create the environment we thrived in,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like how
Mhm.
to go into space and be supportive. So I also teach a class for an organization here in the city, and I am offering administrative assistant skills. So I teach them Microsoft Word. But then we also talk about like workplace issues. And I am constantly feeding them all these nuggets about, listen, I butt my head and I did this. You don't have to do it that way. You can actually do it this way and you can get there much quicker, right? But a lot of the things that I'm noticing is there's such a toxic workplace in most jobs that when these people come to me, they are so used to manipulative management
Mhm.
where their boss is making them shuck and jive and dance to do things that they really shouldn't have to, like take a couple of hours off to go to the doctor. They're constantly in fear of losing their job for reasons that they shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Like I'm constantly teaching them stop saying sorry just to be polite. Most of
Yeah.
my class is mostly women, just 99.9 to 999%. Over the 3 years I've been teaching this class, I've had two men.
Okay.
So the class is mostly women, and they're constantly apologizing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Did you hurt yourself? Did you hurt somebody else? There's nothing to
Mhm.
be sorry for. Instead, let's, walk into a space where you know that I care about you taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
I want for you to know that it's really up to you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. I can't do that part. The only thing I can do is offer you the education, but I know you can't accept it unless you've taken care of yourself.
Right.
So if you're late, you don't have to come in and interrupt the entire class. Oh, I'm so sorry. No, it's okay. I
Okay.
imagine
Mhm.
that you were taking care of yourself. Right now, of
Yeah.
course, there are consequences that come with that, and the consequences you're going to have to talk to somebody and get the notes for the time that you missed. But
Mhm.
you are a responsible adult, and I anticipate that you will do that. And if you don't, well,
Yeah.
then it's really on you. You missed that learning experience, right?
Mhm.
But like really kind of changing people's views so that they see that.
Yeah.
That's where all of this comes from, right? Hey friends, I'm Tramelle. If you didn't know, I run a career planning firm called TDJ Consulting. I focus on working with high achieving women, and you know exactly the ones I'm talking about. She's the go-to employee, she's consistent, she's reliable, and everyone goes to her for help. It usually means that she's doing her work and theirs too. But unfortunately, her bank account doesn't reflect all the extra effort that she's putting in. I help those high achieving women leverage their wins at work to boost their salary by 10 to 20,000. I provide career services that build on those successes that they've already accomplished without requiring them to go back to school. If you're curious, let's talk. Schedule a free call at tdjconsulting.com.
Mhm.
If we're having those kinds of conversations, I know that I'm having them with the people who I'm coaching or writing resumes with or teaching classes with. I imagine that you're having the same types of conversations with your clients. Is that true?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, just for how much of your life that you spend at work and managing those relationships. I talk with a lot of people about a lot of things at work. And you're right. A lot of it is because people are sort of groomed to be polite, right? To be the people that are like, oh, yes, sir, I will take care of that right away. I will do that. And sometimes that serves us, but sometimes it doesn't, right? Like it can set you up for these really manipulative people, or you're bringing your own trauma history in and making decisions from that place. And so, um, because of the way I do therapy, right? Because I'm a relational cultural therapist, so all I talk about is relationships, and we can look at these patterns at work and at home and with your friends and in your childhood and see what is really going on, like the ways you're interacting with these people. Are they taking advantage of you? Are you setting the boundaries that you need to be authentic and to be comfy in that space and keep your job?
That's amazing. So I think that from the experiences that we're both having individually, now we get to join forces and help the world not have to go through those same pitfalls, right? So
I
let's
hope
talk.
so. Yeah.
That's my hope. That is my overwhelming hope. I'm really hoping to stop everybody from having these same um, manipulative managers, or
Yeah.
at least being able to see them and know what to do, right? Or change the way that they're interacting in what previously may be considered polite, and instead being intentional, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So,
Well, and yes, I love the idea of us talking about that, but mostly I love the idea of like listening to you talk about that because you have so much passion and so much knowledge for work and for doing your best at work, and also never selling yourself short, right? Like I've
yes,
heard you tell so many clients, like, no, this is something to brag about. And you think this is nothing, but this is something we can put on your resume. And I joke all the time about how you wrote a resume for me. And I'm like, she didn't lie about me. But when you look at it, I'm like, is this me? Like, is that true? And so you're just so good at that of being like, okay, hold on to yourself. And also, how do you fit that into a workplace? And so if you need me here to talk about that, let's talk about that. But I'm excited to hear you do that.
well, friend, the reason why I feel like you and I are such a good fit is, outside of this, you're such a good friend. And I mean that in the way of, you hold space for me in those moments where I'm like, okay, everybody else sees me as this firecracker, this never ending fountain of positive energy. But sometimes it's not all that positive.
Right.
And maybe I'm dealing with a situation that it calls for there to be some processing. You can't process with everybody.
Yeah.
You really have to have someone who is thoughtful and on your side to process with. And it doesn't hurt if your friend is an LPC. So so you offer such support, and I have never experienced a time where I've come to you and felt like I needed to hold my tongue. Like I've always felt like I can be very candid and honest and open, even on situations that are super uncomfortable. Like you and I have had conversations about almost everything. We've had conversations about race.
Yeah.
We've had conversations about personal relationships, work relationships. We've had conversations about friend groups,
And our
right?
children,
Whew,
right? Our daughters.
Lord, our kids, our parents,
Yeah.
right? We've had conversations about almost everything. And in all of those, I have felt extremely supportive, and I felt like, okay, you are the vault. I don't feel like I need to worry. But I also walk away feeling like, okay, I have a plan and I know what to do. So that's also, what I'm hoping to offer people. So, we're going to bring on guests, we're going to talk about things, but I am such a strategic person. I love to talk about strategy. So I'm looking forward to like our guests coming on and offering, of course, their expertise, but more so like, what do you do, right? Giving the advice back and saying to people, okay, this is the problem, and this is why it's a problem, and this is how it just, started out as a problem. But now that we know that, push that to the side. Let's talk about solutions. So of course, we're going to be talking about quick fixes because you need to do something now.
Right.
People are constantly trying to push things to the side, thinking, oh, I'll worry about that later. And it just starts off as a snowflake that rolls and tumbles into a huge avalanche, right? So you need a quick fix. So we'll be talking about quick fixes, but also you gotta have the long-term fix, right?
Yeah.
The solution.
Hey, this is Bonnie, and I want to take a minute to talk to you about my business, which is Mindful Kindness Counseling, LLC. It's a private therapy practice in San Antonio, Texas. It's a huge part of who I am, a huge part of my life. I'm really proud of the work that I do and the way that it reflects my values and supports my community. So I want you to know that my business is there. If you're looking for a therapist, if you're looking for a supervisor, if you're hoping for support or networking, let me know how I can support you, because there is plenty of work to go around and I want all of us to be successful. So reach me at bonniescottlpc@gmail.com.
What are the favorite topics that we're going to be talking about. What do you think?
Like my favorite topics?
Yeah.
Girl, well, definitely rest, because you know me, I love a good purposeful rest.
Yes. And
also that particular guest, I'm trying to recruit to be my friend. That's the whole reason we did this podcast. So
rest is so important. Like I tell my clients when we are doing, so I'm teaching them all the components that they'll need so that when they go and take the actual Microsoft certification test, they'll pass, right? Mm-hmm. And I tell them rest is a part of your testing strategy.
Totally.
So as you study, you need to remember rest. You can't be up here just like going through several days and then show up the test and you snoring because you did not get the rest you need. But also in our regular lives,
right?
As women, I know you and I sometimes forget that rest is important. I can't imagine that we aren't the only ones.
I cannot imagine that to be true. Yeah. Well, and something I talk about with clients a lot is like, okay, yeah, I wish self-care was just like pedicures and wine night with your girlfriends, but
wouldn't that be fun?
Wouldn't that be great if that was enough? But sometimes it's not enough. And especially for what we're juggling now, you have to be really intentional about resting and recharging your own batteries in ways that are meaningful and actually like recharge you, right? And don't make you feel like, oh, that was just a Band-Aid that I put on this like gushing.
And our guest has like actually revolutionized the way that, well, I look at rest. She started a whole program and she's going to tell us all about it. I can't wait for that episode. And then we're also going to be talking about fresh starts. Mm-hmm. And I'm really excited about this because the guest that we're bringing on has totally changed my point of view when we are starting new things in our life. I think a lot of times people are scared to go public with big new things because they are scared to fail. Of course, we're all scared to fail, but you got to do it scared. And you're not going to be great at it in the beginning. You got to practice, right? But the whole point is, if you can strategically bring in your network, you can set yourself up for success. So I love what she's going to be talking about with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's going to be a really fun episode. Because you're right. It's just a very different way to think about a new beginning in your life. And that, you might need space to mourn what is over, but what an exciting thing to be able to open the door and find a whole community of people there ready to cheer for you and support you and, in all the different ways. So I think that's going to be really cool. Yeah. So I'm also very excited about that. And it's going to be a tough episode, but I'm really looking forward to our conversations about race in the workplace. And it's delicate and it's tough. And I am honored to be taking that step with you. So I'm looking forward to that episode as well.
I think it's important. Again, this is one of those situations we talked about earlier, right? The uncomfortable conversations, they still need to be had. Right. So for me, this is new because in all the time that I have been public speaking, in all the time that I have been working behind the scenes with clients, having these kinds of conversations with them about their experiences with race in the workplace or all the issues in the workplace, right? I have never been publicly vocal about any of these things. So this is new and different for me. So I'm also going to be experiencing that as we go through it. But we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations and that's okay. We're going to figure it out.
We're going to do it with kindness and love for each other and all the women out there doing this hard stuff.
Exactly. And then another conversation that we're going to have is one that we have deemed invisible identities. And so I'm not going to give away what that means. Yeah. It's extremely important. It's going to be something that is poignant and you're going to hear a lot of points of view you probably never heard before.
Yeah, love that.
So I'm going to leave that as the teaser. You're going to have to come back for more in order to know exactly what it is that I'm talking about, but invisible identities. I cannot wait to talk about that. So outside of that, I think we're slated to have a real good run. I'm excited.
Oh, me too. I'm so excited. I mean, I bought this giant microphone. That's how excited I am. So,
well, I bought one too, but look, I'm going to use it all the time now. People going to be so tired of me. Tramelle, it's just a phone call. I don't care. I'm using my big mic.
I'm going to be on Zoom with clients like,
yes.
You're like, are we on a podcast right now? What is that?
We are. This is your personal podcast calling you back to yourself. Come on through. Come on. All right. So that's what you have to look for with us. I'm so excited. Bonnie's excited. We invite you to come back. Look for us on all the channels. We'll be everywhere. But I'm really excited, and I hope that you are too.